I'm Mary. I'm Molly. Friends, if you haven't subscribed, please do that now and click that bell so you can get immediate notification once we post a new video. Today's story is from Uncle Arthur's Bedtime Stories. It's actually 4 stories, but the point of these 4 stories is that Jesus knows and cares every single problem that we have in our life. He does answer prayer. Sometimes he makes us wait. Sometimes he answers immediately. Today's stories are so encouraging, knowing that having faith like a little child can move mountains. In these 4 stories, the circumstances seem impossible, but our God can do the impossible.
Preach it, sister.
Yes. Enjoy! There's a beautiful old hymn that tells us that Jesus knows and cares. And he does care, especially for little children. You ask me why I am so sure? For one thing, because of all the letters I have received. They came in all sorts of handwriting from all sorts of children in all sorts of places, and they tell me how Jesus has loved and cared for them in special ways. And this is Uncle Arthur writing this. Some of them told how they had prayed because they had read in some of the earlier bedtime stories about answers to children's prayers. Each one has taken some little problem to the Lord and found him to be a very present help in trouble. Maybe you should do the same? The first story is called In the Mailbag. The first letter I want to tell you about came to me from a little girl called Lily, who once went to stay with her friends in a village named Pollux Hill, near Bedford, England. Well, there she loved to get letters from her dear mother who lived in London. Lily says, "One day I received a small parcel from my mother, and on opening it, found a note to say that somewhere inside I could find a shilling that was 15 cents in American money. Well, I searched and searched for that shilling, but it was nowhere to be found." Carefully, Lily smoothed out every piece of paper, but no shilling was there. She was very much upset about the loss, for a shilling meant a great deal to her. It had been a long time since she had so much to spend, and when would Mother be able to send her another shilling? In her sorrow, she turned to the Lord. "When I said my prayers that night," she writes, "I asked God to help me find it. I was sure he would." What do you suppose happened? Something very unusual. The next morning, when the mailman came with the letters, he spoke to Lily and said, "Do you remember the parcel I brought you yesterday?" "Yes, I do. It was from my mother in London." "Well, it was right?" asked the mailman. "Why, no," said Lily. "Mother said she was enclosing a shilling, but it wasn't there." "Well, here it is," said the mailman. "When I got home from my round yesterday, I found a shilling at the bottom of my bag. I've been trying to think how could it have gotten there, and it just occurred to me that perhaps it might have fallen out of your parcel, because the wrapper was loose at the corner." Was Lily glad to get her shilling? I should say she was. "So that proves," she writes, "that God does answer prayer." It surely does, Lily. Bless your dear heart. The next story that Uncle Arthur tells is called Why Bud Came Back. Here's a letter from a little girl named Arena, who lives in Texas. She writes to tell how she prayed for her brother. And that's a lovely thing for little girls to do, isn't it? It seems that her brother Bud had decided to leave home. Mother and Arena had begged him again and again not to go away, but he had made up his mind, and it seemed that nothing could change it. Bud's suitcase was packed, and in a few minutes a friend would be calling for him. Then the 2 boys would drive away, and who could tell when they would return? Arena had made one last appeal to Bud not to go, but it was no use. He picked up his suitcase and went on the porch to wait for his friend. Not knowing what else to do, Arwina ran to her bedroom, fell on her knees, and begged Jesus to help change her brother's mind so that he wouldn't make this big mistake. Just then, the front door opened again, and in walked Bud. Arwina ran to meet him. "I'm not going." Then he went out to talk to his friend who had just arrived. Bud told him that he had decided to stay with his mother and Arwina. The car drove away, and Bud came back into the house and unpacked his suitcase. "He never knew," writes Arwina, "why he changed his mind, but I did." Arwina is a sister really worth having, don't you think? Saved from the fire. Here's a story that was sent to me from a little girl named Catherine who lived in Nebraska, where it all happened. It's an exciting one, and it all occurred when she was not quite 6 years old. A fire had started out on the prairie and was sweeping toward the village where Catherine lived. Everybody was fighting the fire except Catherine and her mother, who was not well enough to go. But all efforts were in vain. The fire swept on, burning houses and farms and barns and granaries, everything in its path. Now it was coming straight toward Catherine's home. Burning shingles were flying all about in the high wind, threatening to set the roof alight at any moment. "Let's tell Jesus!" cried Catherine to her mother, dropping on her knees and pleading with the Lord to save them from the fire. After a simple prayer, she turned to her mother and said, with her face all aglow, "Now it won't burn our home. I know it won't. Jesus won't let it." Just at that very moment, the wind changed and the onrushing wall of fire was swept aside as by an unseen hand. Catherine's home was left completely unharmed. Wonderful faith of a little child. The Lost Book. Marion and Norma, who live in Berkeley, California, were in a great hurry to go to school. It was almost time to leave when Marion noticed that one of their school books was missing. "Where is the English reader?" she asked. "Don't you have it?" replied Norma. "We must take that with us. We have to read from it today." "No, it isn't here," said Marion, looking through all her things once more. "Where can it be?" "Oh, do hurry up," said Norma. "We'll be late for school." "But we must find that book. Why don't you help me look for it?" They looked and looked all over the place, from the kitchen to the bedrooms, but it was nowhere to be seen. The precious minutes ticked by. Soon it would not be possible for them to get to school on time, and how they both hated to be late. "Norma," called Marion, "let's ask Jesus to help us. Maybe he will show us where it is right away." "Let's ask him," said Norma. So they knelt down and said a very short prayer. There wasn't time for more. It was simply, "Jesus, please help us find our book." As they rose to their feet, Marion said, "I know. There's one place we didn't look. Maybe it fell off the table into the trash box. Quick, Norma, let's run and see." They did. And there was the book, at the very bottom of the box. Joyfully and thankfully, they lifted it out and rushed off to school, arriving just in time as the bell stopped ringing. Friends, if you haven't subscribed, please do that now and click that bell so you can get immediate notification once we post a new video. Yep. Thank you, friends, so much for watching and for tuning in today. Don't forget to tune in next time for another amazing video. We hope you enjoyed these stories today and were encouraged about prayer and the power of prayer. Yes. And don't forget to have the faith of a child, because Jesus answers prayers, not only children's, even adults. And if we're willing to, yes, everyone's prayer. So make sure you pray and believe that God will answer your prayer, even sometimes their circumstances seem impossible. Amen. Yes. Goodbye.